All right. Well, welcome. It's good to be back. Again, want to welcome. It's good to be back. Sorry for the delay. We've been speaking the last number of weeks about love of God, and we spoke about having love of God and fear of heaven, and why we limit ourselves. Yeah, so to speak. With this love, we spoke about that. Spoke about that last week. And the reason is because, we spoke about love of ourselves and how love of ourselves takes us away from love of God, or maybe anything else for that matter. Says Rabbi Yafi over here, I got a few things here. We'll see if we get to both of them. He brings down in the name of Rabbi Todris Hirschler, known as Tzaddik of Yerushalayim, known as the righteous one of Jerusalem. And he told one person the following. He says, already this week, he says, I can't get my equilibrium back, so to speak. I'm all fired up. I'm all fired up for what I saw, what the rabbi said. Said, I saw something that the rabbi says that there's a Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Mishnah in Sanhedrin says, chapter 6, Mishnah 5, name of Rebbe Meir. He says at the time a person is in pain and suffers. So what's God doing when a person suffers? Says Kaloni Miroi Shikaloni Mizroi. So he feels the pain, right? Feels the pain of his offspring, so to speak, of his people. So just like God himself suffers or feels the suffering on the blood that evil people spill, or the more so on the blood of righteous people. So what did Rabbi Hirschler say over here from this Mishnah? He says how much, what God says, let's say better, what God says about the blood of a Jew that's spilled, even on someone evil. He says, Kaloni Meroishi, Kaloni Mizroi. He says, Ez Abba Yesh Lanu. So what a Father in heaven. What a Father in heaven we have. A lot of things to the statement here. One is, he brings on from the Mishnah Sanhedrin, and the name of Rebbe Meir. The God, Kaviyachol, is in pain when he sees his people in pain. When he sees his people suffer. He says, if so, even when evil people, their blood is spilled. All the more so, blood of the righteous. So he says, I had a lot of feeling over here. A lot of feeling. Shook me up, so to speak. Because he says the blood of Judah spilled, even someone evil. Now we could say this is reward and punishment, very good. So evil people are going to get theirs also. Get their punishment. All the more so the righteous. God feels the pain. Now we know, the Gemara says, Gemara Megillah says, angels want to sing praise to God as the Egyptians are drowning. This is by non-Jews even. What does God say? He says, my creation is drowning. My creation is drowning. How can you sing my praise? So you tell me, well, then they deserve to be punished. They deserve to be punished. Look what they did to the Jewish people with the pain they put them through. Look at only 20% of the Jewish people came out. Everything would happen in Egypt. They deserve to be punished? Oh, yeah. God had to punish them. Severely punish them. But at the same time, now we can't feel this because God can feel two things at once. He's still in pain. He's still in pain. Because he has to wipe out his creation. What's everybody going to say? Everybody's going to say, they had it coming. Look what they did. Look at the pain they caused. They had it coming. Nonetheless, God feels the pain. Doesn't want to have to do that. But God can feel two things at the same time, which man cannot. So anytime blood is spilled, even of an evil person, it's kind of a catch-22. Because you're going to tell me on the one hand, they deserve to be punished. Yes. They deserve to be severely punished. Yes. But he's still a father. Doesn't want to have to punish. Doesn't want to have to punish in a severe way. Sometimes he has to. And we live in a world of Hester, don't Hester upon him. In a world of hiddenness within hiddenness. So imagine if he feels bad about an evil person, that their blood is spilled. What about someone righteous? So the mission over there says, just like God has pain, and God suffers when evil people's blood is spilled, all the more so, the blood of the righteous. Now, why would the blood of the righteous flow? So we know, as we said before, it's reward and punishment, one of the 13 principles of faith of Maimonides. The evil people can get their reward in this world if they are going to get obliterated in the next world. God give them wealth and fame and power and all that. Very good. They'll get, God will take care of them in this world. Take care of them in the next world. But seemingly, it looks like they have it easy. Now, someone who keeps what God says, works hard, tries to become as righteous as possible, what happens? A minor infraction in God's eyes that for most people either it's not really a severe sin or maybe not be anything for a normal person. But for righteous people, they're judged what we call like the chuta sara, like by a hand's breadth, by a hair's breadth. A minor thing. Very minor thing. They're going to say, where's the fairness? They've worked on themselves. They've worked very hard. They become righteous people. So we always say, close you are to God, you get burnt. It's hard. A minor thing. If it's unfair, it's catch-22. Like a friend of mine would say, better be ignorant. If you're ignorant, God cannot have so much claim against you. But if you have greater potential, certainly God can be much more angry. You have greater potential. But if I don't, reach my potential, or at a much higher level, let's say better, so then God has less patience. In other words, it's supposed to be at a high standard all the time. There's no drifting off. There's no off days. You got to keep going at that level and go higher. So even by a minor infraction, punishment can be absolutely severe. Now you add a few people in the world want to be judged according to strict judgment. That's very, very hard life. Look at Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, Gemara at the end, the brachas. Rabbi Akiva says, I was worried about this verse. Right? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul. When am I going to be able to give up my life? Sanctify God's name. So what happened? You're caught by the Romans, teaching Torah in public. Death penalty. So he's giving the sermon to his students. He's giving the sermon as the carving him up alive. So the student said, Rebbe, Ad Khan, this is what it means. He goes his whole sermon as he's being carved up. Sponsored by this verse. When am I going to be able to sanctify God's name? Now, not everyone else like you do. We hold, practically speaking, if you have to give up your life for the sake of God, you have to give it up. We signing up. Say, okay, I'm ready to sacrifice, let's go. Drive my car into an village, let's see what happens. Who's going to do that? If you have to give up your life, it's kiss the cross or die, you have to die. And if you don't die, then you transgress the Torah prohibition of not sanctifying God's name. Now, there are many people, on a very low spiritual level, let's say, rather die than kiss the cross. Many died that way, sanctifying God's name. So the obligation is, if you're in that situation, kiss the cross or die, anytime, any place. You have to die. That's the halacha. Now, if you don't, and you fake it or whatever, okay. You didn't sanctify God's name. It's our test. Nobody's looking in this world to die that way. The halacha is, if that is the case, then that's what you have to do. Not that I'm waiting every day that could happen. The problem is, Rabbi Akiva didn't hold that way. Rabbi Akiva said, that's our fate, to be willing to die, sanctifying God's name. And as he's giving the sermon, he's having his flesh being carved out. Rabbi Akiva says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And then he died. The Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva, Muchen, Mezumen, right, prepared to come to the next world. So I'm arguing Gemara here. So there were a few people in the world that wanted to live their life according to strict judgment. It's not an easy thing to do, A. And B, what happens? Person can say, well, why be so close to God anyway? If a person's close to God, what's going to happen? You get burnt. You have all kinds of hardship. I hear this all the time. Yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm trying, whatever. And every last thing, bam, 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 getting slaughtered, having difficulty. And the answer to the Korban Aaron says, Zor Chaim HaKadosh brings him down, book of Leviticus. Zor Chaim Kodesh says, you want to be close to the king, you get burnt. That's what happened in not living of you. Very hard to understand what happened to them. Or gives a lot of different potential reasons why. But at the end of the day, what happens? They did something God didn't want them to do for whatever reason, that they thought it was okay. And they died. They paid a serious price. So they always say, would you rather have fantasy? Or think that whatever I do, whatever I think, all my actions really matter? Now some people say, I'll take fantasy. Okay. This is real life. This comes along. Tzaddik of Yerushalayim. Rav Tordas Hirschler. And he says, imagine the pain God feels. Even someone's evil. And he has to spill their blood. They're obligated. Okay. God has to spill their blood. For whatever reason. Right? He feels the pain. Anybody know Jew he's got to kill. Feels the pain. Say, but they have it coming. Very good. My creation is drowning. How could you sing praise to me? My creation is drowning. So he says this made a very big impression on him. That even if blood of a Jew is spilled, feels the pain. Even someone deserves it. Now you take, a Jew's worst enemy. They get killed. However, they get killed doesn't matter. Their blood is spilled. Should be dancing. Right? Difference of opinion, that's not the topic here, but it's difference of opinion whether a person can sing and dance when an evil person gets knocked off. Evil person against the Jewish people in general. They get knocked off. I'm saying you can't sing and dance. I'm saying you can't. Yeah. But that's the whole discussion. But the point is, said Rav Hirschler, he says, even the blood of a Jew that's spilled, even if he's evil, God feels pain. He says, what a father we have. A mind-boggling thing here. Parent has to discipline a child. Obviously, the discipline should fit with what the child did. Sometimes you have to punish a child. A child will yell and scream and this, you're not fair. This, that, whatever. That's painful. Parent doesn't want to have to punish a child. But sometimes, for discipline, you have to. It comes on King Solomon. Proverbs. King Solomon said, you spare the rod, you're cruel. Not talking about corporal punishment here. Not talking about whacking around your child. It obviously doesn't work today, and even if you did it, kids probably call the police on you anyway. Yeah. Nonetheless, kids need discipline. Kids do not want to live As much as they say they do, they don't. They don't want to live an ownerless life. They don't want to just be able to go and see and do and whatever, and there are no repercussions. They don't want that. They want structure. Sometimes you get kids to the elements, they go crazy. There's some kids, you can sit them down a bunch of blocks, this and that, they'll be good for hours. There'll be other kids that don't like to play themselves. They'll call out a million times, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. Not just when they're young, when they're older also. These different types of kids, okay. But sometimes they need discipline. Can't just do what they want. We live in a generation today where people sometimes afraid to discipline. Because what's their worst fear? What's their worst fear? The worst fear is the kids won't be religious anymore. That's the worst fear. It's like they walk on eggshells. Because kids today, in general, they're not silly putty. Any little thing. Temperature's not right. Can't learn. Too hot, too cold, too this, too that. The evil good age is very good at what it does, as we always say. You take new situations. New situations are hard. What would anybody want when things are hard? And there's pressure. What would they want? What would the most important thing that they want? Take off the pressure. Take it off. Make life easier. You know what? Life is not easy. And life is not supposed to be easy. Now, if they're really not coping, whatever, okay, so you have to deal with it. But, how much of it is that really the case? And in certain ways, not so, so many radical ways you can change it to a certain extent. So what do? There's always, a few directions someone can go. But I understand. Different stages of life are hard. Beginnings are hard. That's true. That's very true. Now, it could be a person go through the motions and still not like it. Comes to learning's hard. It's a grind. Long hours. Put a kid in that situation, it's not easy. Now, some kids will learn more, some kids will learn less. Some have learning disabilities. Makes it harder. There's social pressure, there are other things, there's a lot of things going on. In a young adolescent's life. A lot of things. Now, it's a growing schedule. No one's going to say no. You got to be up, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, get home at 10 o'clock at night. You have breaks during the day. A long day. So some can say, well, it's not for me. Yeah. But people in general, as we always say, they're lazy. They want everything to be easy. I'm not saying there aren't people that, just don't enjoy it and they don't want to go through it. Okay. It's that, and we'll make it even easier. They don't have a learning disability per se. Whatever, it's a long day. Maybe sometimes the material is more interesting, less interesting. Okay. So what's the heart of the problem? You gotta get to the heart of the problem. You gotta see what someone's telling you, or what they're not telling you. I think in a lot of cases, people would rather have it much more leisurely. Get out much later. learn less, have a lot more breaks. Of course, who doesn't want it easy? Who doesn't want it easy? Who doesn't want to have, time to themselves and chill? Makes sense. Not an easy thing by any stretch. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's either put up or shut up. It's hard. Not supposed to be easy. Isn't one of the 3 hardest things to acquire is Torah? Right? Torah, Eretz Yisrael, and Olam Haba. 3 things very hard to acquire. Now, if a person fits in the system, very good. They want to work hard, very good. They enjoy it, they're part of the system, it works perfectly, and if not, it's problematic. A person can send them to a place where students are weaker, let's say. Family's not as good, not as strong in Judaism. But it's much more chilled. Someone came to my Rebbe once, asked the following question. Send my kid to a school, 2 options. One is they're very good families in one school, very strong, in their Judaism, but they don't learn as much. They don't cover as much ground. Or I get sent to a school that is higher academically, but the kids are not, let's say, the best kids that come from the best families. Someone asked him, where do I send my kid to school? So he said, you send to the first school. It should be around, other kids from good families, strong families, even if they don't learn as much. Because that's the most important thing, because the other thing is worse. Because they're worse influences. So that, it's not a simple thing today. It's really not a simple thing today. Back in the day I went to high school, it's on 215. 215. You had to do homework, if you had extracurricular activities, whatever, okay. This is a very long day. But they need to be trained. There's no way around it. Where are you going to cut hours from? So you have some, might say, modern places, in the States that, in the afternoon or late in the afternoon, they have secular studies, okay. Maybe they have, maybe they have sports, some other things, okay. Some places, that's the norm. Certainly not here. Certainly not the strong communities. In America, it's not like that. So it's a hard adjustment. All adjustments are hard. All beginnings are hard, no matter what. So then you got to pinpoint, what's really going on. But at the end of the day, what does he say over here? He's telling you, any blood that's spilled, especially those of the righteous, God feels the pain. So the million-dollar question is, why do you have to put them through that in the first place? What's the purpose? Right? What's the purpose of it? If God's going to feel the pain, right? If God's going to feel the pain, there won't be the obvious thing. The obvious thing is, don't put him through that. Let us all play the guitar, sing Kumbaya, and everything's beautiful. Right? What's the problem? That'd be the easy solution. Then there's no pain at all. Nobody has to feel the pain. Very good. No one will feel it. Unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. As the Rambam says, there's a reward and punishment. Now, God has mercy. There can be mercy and judgment. But as we said before, closer you are to the king, you get burnt. Right? 100% you get burnt. So the person's getting tossed around and having hardship, the person could be bitter. Why are they bitter? Because they see other people not working on anything, spitting in God's face and not, keeping the law the way it should be and all that. And they seem to be living the life of Riley. Plus, see, everything, is a facade over here. Even if everything looks good, probably got fancy cars and fancy homes and fancy this and fancy that. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And usually, most people that have money, they're not happy. Usually giving away a lot of the money, this and that. They're not so happy. Yeah, because you have what you want. You have what you need, but it's never enough. Right? A person has 100, they want 200. 200, they want 400. Never satisfies. Never satisfies. They go acquire things they don't need. Go places they don't need to go. But there's no meaning. Right? It has no meaning. Someone would say, I'd like a crack at it. Give me some of that. Let me enjoy, some of that. Yeah. But over time, what's going to happen? You get bored. Go on to the next thing. What's the difference between, joke is, what's the difference between men and boys? Just the size of their toys. Yeah, that's the difference. May not even be that big of a difference today. We're always wanting something. Nothing's never enough, so to speak. Got this iPhone, the next one came out. It's coming out in 2 weeks. Got to be up to date. Can't be behind. So the pain of a person, where does it come from? They feel inadequate. Why do they feel inadequate? Why aren't they succeeding? Why can't they be like another person? Like everything they touch is gold. It's gold. Or seemingly that's the way it looks. Why is there so much pain? So much difficulty? I hear this all the time. They say, okay, I probably sinned. I probably have this coming to me, that coming to me. Okay. Right? But at the end of the day, that has to be this hard. Right? We really have to be this hard. So that's the idea. The closer we are to the king, the harder it is. And the harder it should be. Because you're not a potato farmer anymore in Idaho. No offense. Anyone's a potato farmer, grew up in Idaho. Right? You have different realization now. Different way of looking at the world. So the way God sees it is very different. So God's going to come punish, even in a severe way, even someone who's evil. He doesn't want to do that. He feels the pain. So this is part consolation. Why? Says reversal, we understand God feels the pain. Even he feels the pain of someone that's evil and he has to knock him off. Although more so, imagine the pain he feels by someone who's righteous. But that's the question the students of Rebbe Kiva asked. So this is more than a 2,000-year-old question. Rebbe, that's the Torah. That's the merit for learning Torah. I should have brought that up before. That is their question. How can this be the reward for learning Torah? Being carved up like a shish kebab. You're in tremendous amount of pain. Where's the reward? Where's the reward for learning Torah? And all the more so, if God feels the pain by someone who's evil, like someone's Rebbe Kiva is extremely righteous. He had a rough life. 40 years, didn't know anything. Okay. Has all these students, they died. 24,000 students died. And he still kept pressing. He still kept going. And from 5 other students that he had, that's where we have Torah Shabbat Peh. That's where we have oral law. From those 5 students. Couldn't Rabbi Akiva just give it up? I mean, imagine. It's 24,000 students. Over a 33-day period, from Passover till 33rd of the Omer, 33 days, all the students died. Now, if you do the math, it's over 700 students a day. Mind-boggling. 700 students a day, dropping like flies. No pun intended. And the Gemara says, why did they die? What's one of the reasons they died? Because they didn't show respect one to another. Students of Rabbi Akiva? You want to tell me they didn't have respect for others? And for learning? The mind-boggling. So it says in Shir Shirim, Song of Songs, God plucks the roses. What does that mean he plucks the roses? Let's say God forbids, it was supposed to be a decree, tens of thousands of Jews supposed to die. Because of our sins. So what does God do? God says, okay, I can make a pogrom. I can have these people killed. I can have a lot of people killed. Or, instead of having a lot of people killed, I can have 5 people killed. But I'm going to pluck the roses. I'm going to take 5 of the most righteous people. I'll take them instead of 50,000. Or 100,000. Now, when something like that happens, everyone's going to say, come on, we're living in a world of Hester, and we don't understand any of these things very good. We don't understand. But we do understand when righteous people are taken, it's for the sins of everybody else. They're not dying for our sins, right? Sounds like Christianity. You know, these righteous people, whenever they're taken, they're not living their lives to die, certainly for the sins of everybody else, right? That wouldn't make any sense. But God, I mean, maybe the Christians will make sense, I don't know, but it doesn't make any sense to us. So they can be plucked for the sins of everybody else. Now you can tell me, let's say they're not very old. Yeah, they don't have to be 100 years old. Be 60 years old. Be 70 years old, not so old. Father, blessed memory, would say, I used to think 80 was old. It's like 80 not so old, right? As he was getting like close to 80. He didn't make it past 80, but okay. Yeah, so what does King David say? He gets 70 years. Psalm chapter 9, you get 70 years. If you have strength, 80 years. Everything over that's a bonus. Okay. But you need righteous people in the world. You need them to uphold the world for everybody else. But sometimes righteous people get taken for that reason. Or they can be taken, let's say in a horrific way. Right? Like what happened to Rabbi Akiva. Right? What happened during the Holocaust? He had, many, many rabbis were killed in horrific ways. Some of them not very old in the bigger scheme of things. Well, it's very hard. So say, okay, I can understand that to a point. To a point. But if God feels the pain, and this is what he's telling you, if God feels the pain on someone who's evil, and he has to do that, imagine the pain he feels on someone who's righteous. So what's the conclusion of Hirschler over here, the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim? What's his conclusion? His conclusion is, as Rabbi Afi says over here, Ez Abba Yesh Lanu. What an unbelievable Father we have. But you got to understand, this is not something God wants to do. This is not something he's interested in doing. Yeah, and he feels the pain. But guess what? It has to be done. Even by someone evil, he feels the pain. Even by non-Jews, he feels the pain. And you look at what they did. You look at what the Egyptians did. It's even more mind-boggling. Yeah, what happened to the Egyptians? They were drowned in the water. Very good. So we see this. So in Parshas Beshalach, you have the Song of the Sea, or we call Parshas Shira. Right? We say that every day in the morning. We say the Egyptians were spit up on dry land. Why in the world they spit on dry land? They spit up on dry land. What purpose? There'd be food for the fish. Fish would be happy for, tens of thousands drowned. Fish food for life, for a long time. Kind of like Bin Laden, you throw them overboard. Very good, let the fish eat them. Beautiful. They had a merit, though. Imagine everything the Egyptians did. How they embittered the lives of the Jewish people. Not only that, but caused 80% of the Jewish people not to get out of Egypt. About 8 million people don't get out of Egypt. All the pain, physical and spiritual, they caused. And they're thrown on dry land. Why are they thrown on dry land? Because they had the merit to be buried. Instead of being eaten by the fish. Any of us would ask, did a video on this once on Parshas Beshalach. They had a merit to be buried. After all the evil they committed. They deserved to die, that's no question. God felt the pain. He wouldn't allow the angels to sing their praises. Sing his praises. When his creation is drowning and dying. Okay. So if we know all the things that they did to the Jews and how hard they made Jewish life, very good. You want to tell me they deserve to be buried? Let the fish eat them. Yeah, what's the answer? What did the Egyptians say? The Egyptians said that Jewish people go through the sea, and they're blinded; they can't see. So imagine they're chasing after 2 to 3 million people. You stop dead in the tracks, can't see anything. Blinded, literally blinded. And they cry out, the God of the Jewish people is fighting against us. So you imagine. You imagine God says, wow, look. The lowly Egyptians are admitting I'm God and King. They're admitting I'm fighting against them. They deserve to die. Too bad. Suckers, you're all going to die anyway. Too bad. Not repenting here. They have a death sentence on them. Okay. They're all going to die. Very good. What does God say? God says because they admitted I was fighting against them, i.e. God fighting against them, that gave them the merit to be buried. Now, Kaufman would say, in my opinion, for what it's worth, Kaufman would say, you got to be off your cotton picking head. No offense to God over here. You got to be off your cotton picking head. Why? Why in the world? Bin Laden, fish. Fish food. For generations. You give these scum of the earth, you allow them to be buried? Imagine Lahabdil. Make a big difference over here. Imagine the Nazi Jamach Shimon V'Zifra. May they be blood up, may they rot wherever they are. And they're being killed, let's say. But when they're having all this difficulty, they say, wow, the God Jewish people's really fighting against us. And that gives them the merit not to be burned alive or whatever, to actually be buried. How many people are going to say, really? They tortured, they gassed, they butchered. Everything they did You're going to tell me they have a right to be buried because they acknowledge God is fighting against them? The God of the Jewish people is fighting against them? Everyone's going to say that doesn't make any sense. Or Scott would say, you're going to be off your cotton picking head. Why? Why? What's the answer? Because it's by the Egyptians. The Egyptians said, God of Israel is fighting against us. That's it. They admit it. This is what was happening. And for that, they got reward to be buried. We would have said fish food. Fish food. No. God have mercy. They deserve to die. He was in pain. He had to do this. Yeah. But he had to do it. But he feels the pain. Even by evil people. See, this is the hard thing because what's the Torah say? The Torah says in the book of Leviticus chapter 19, I'll get there one day, I don't know when. I'll get there one day. The Torah says you cannot take revenge. You cannot bear a grudge. Let's say revenge over here. It's a good one. You see these evil people doing X, Y, or Z. What do you want to do? Take revenge. Right? Jews who survived, survived the camps and this and that, when they captured some, Nazis, they were given free reign to whatever they wanted to them. Now, some probably wanted to rip these people to shreds, make them suffer like they suffered. But at the end of the day, they realized, even if we make them suffer, even if we take their lives in a very graphic way, it's not going to bring their loved ones back. All the ones they killed, they murdered, they butchered, they're not coming back. They're not coming back. So even they went through the worst horrors. The worst horrors anyone can imagine. And the suffering they went through. Physical, emotional, psychological, same thing. They had an opportunity to make them suffer. Why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't they do it if they had the opportunity? And what's the answer? Because that's who a Jew is. A Jew does not do that. Why don't they do that? Because it's in their DNA. Yeah. Even if they're not religious per se. It's in their DNA. Now, some people, okay, they're more like a non-Jew than a Jew. Yeah, maybe they would take revenge. Maybe. But thirdly, someone who's devoted to God will never do that. They may want to do it, in theory, but deep down they know that's not the right thing. Now, how do they know it's not the right thing? Because Torah says it's not the right thing. Because Torah says you don't take revenge. Oh, but look what they did. Now again, someone caused someone pain, are they guilty? Yes. Should they go to jail? Yes. Let's say. Doesn't mean they're guiltless. That's not what it means. But it does not give me the ability, to do what they did. Or to make them feel the pain of what they did. That's not a Jewish thing. So you're going to say, who cares? Who cares not a Jewish thing? You should do it. Because if you don't, and they don't feel the pain, then they feel that they got away with it. Yeah, they feel like they got away with it. So at the end, person's a Jew, let's say, is not going to be that vindictive. It's part of our nature. It's part of the DNA. Other people do not have that DNA. What would they say? Fry them. Yeah. Cut off some of their toes. I don't know. Cut off some of the, just some experimentation like Mr. Mengele did. Yeah. See how much formaldehyde or things we can put in a blood system and see what happens. Let's play some, medical games. Yeah, some people wouldn't take them up on the offer. Probably some people would. Yeah. It's not in the heart of a Jew to do it. Yeah, you say, oh, we're squeamish, we're this. You have plenty of Jews, that are doctors and surgeons and whatever, not squeamish by blood. Okay. But they understand there's a higher thing going on here. There's a higher order. It's not something we do. Again, if you're further away from Torah mitzvahs, and you're more like a non-Jew than the non-Jew themselves, okay. So then it's like your Jewish soul got obliterated. Okay. But for the most part, a Jew's not going to do that. And you saw after the war, that did not happen. You're going to say they weren't strong, and they were very sick, and different things. They easily could have done it. It would have helped the Allies to do it. Not even a question. Not even a question. They didn't. And it's not, it's not the nature of a Jew in general to fight somebody in general. Doesn't mean they can't be trained and you need an army if you live in Israel, all that, okay. But is it the nature of a Jew to kill someone? No. It's not in our nature. Now, you have a right to defend yourself, okay. And what happens defending yourself? You end up hurting someone or potentially killing them, okay. Right? But is that part of the nature? Is that part of who we are? No. But people make the claim, say, oh, we're never going to go to the slaughter again, this and that. Okay, we're going to fight back and this and that. Good. So we have to stand up for ourselves. We have to learn. Very good. That wasn't the question. Is it in the nature of a person in general or not? And what's the answer? In this case, the end of the war, you didn't hear of stories or anything documented where you had, Jews destroying other people or making them suffer whatever they went through. Now, in the book of Esther, one of the biggest miracles in the book of Esther is after Haman gets killed. So Achashverosh gives a signet ring to Esther and Mordecai. They say, okay, write whatever you want, whatever. And they sent letters all across the provinces saying, non-Jews going to attack, defend yourself. King gives you right to defend yourself. Okay? So everything that went on during that time, and the Jewish people were saved. So I would say, again, my opinion for what it's worth, a lot of different miracles that happened in the book of Esther. This is one of them. This is a big one. Yeah. Where 500 people were killed. That the Jews killed, that they fought against. You imagine? Jews in a place get attacked and they go out and they go kill 500,000 people. Imagine what that would do. They have a right to defend themselves like in Gaza. Everyone came out against them. Everybody came out against them. You said you have a right to defend yourself, but don't go inside Gaza. Well, how are you gonna get the hostages out, A? And how are you gonna, get the people who did this if you don't go in? You gotta show restraint. Right? It was the day, October 7th, you had 1,200 people killed. 1,200 people massacred. I'm not going to say killed, massacred. Now, you put it in terms like in America, it's like 30, 40, 50,000 people massacred. Yeah. Now, you say, well, of course they have a right to defend themselves. No one's saying no, but then others say, we caused it and all this. So we're not getting into politics. We're not going to get into politics. But they went in, these poor helpless people with all the firepower and whatever. But imagine, in any other country, any other civilized country out there, 50,000 their people got slaughtered, butchered, burnt alive. You don't think there's going to be hell to pay? And they're going to be justified? Almost anything they do? I mean, within reason? Not saying they should go and do exactly what they did to them. You find the perpetrators, you take care of them. That's what should be done. That's what would be done in any other place. They kill first, ask questions later. And nobody would even blink an eyelash. Someone came in. Small group came in. I don't know, it doesn't matter. 1,000 people, 2,000 people. Some ragtag bunch of people came in, murdered, massacred. 50,000 of your people? You're not going to go find them? You're not going to go find them, take care of them? You have an obligation to protect your people. You just let it happen? Obviously not. Again, with a reason, I'm not saying you go in there and, put your women and children on. I'm not saying that. You find the people that did it. You take care of them. You get rid of them. No one's going to blink an eyelash. Nobody in the right mind, I mean, they're not in the right mind, but nobody's going to blink an eyelash. We have a right to defend ourselves. That's one of the miracles in the book of Esther. Government sanctioned, Jews have a right to defend themselves. And if they kill people because they were going to kill them, we're not going to prosecute them. That's how it stuck. That's how it stuck. They killed more than 500 people, the book of Esther says. So imagine if the Muslims, I don't know, in France, in Italy, let's say, they kill 100, 150, 1,000 Jews, let's say, God forbid. Yeah. So the government says, okay, Jews, we're going to give you weapons. We're going to help find these people. You're going to take care of them. We're going to, let's say better. We're going to take care of them. Yeah. We'll take care of them. We'll find them out. Or even better, we'll give you the right to do it. We'll help you. We'll help you do it. And you defend yourself, you can kill them, we're not going to prosecute you. In today's environment, in today's climate, Messiah would be right around the corner if that happened. You can't even do it in your own country without everybody coming out against you. Do it in another country? They're going to give you free reign? That's huge. That's unheard of. It was thousands of years ago. You say, okay. There are other miracles, not saying not. Yeah, that was a major one. Major one. Ahasuerus gave him free reign. Free reign, and they killed 500 people in these provinces. So the three character traits that every Jew has, whether they use them or not, it's a different issue, but three main character traits. They're Baishanim, they're Rachmanim, and they Gimel Chasadim. They get embarrassed easily, they have compassion for others, and they do chesed, they do acts of loving kindness. Now, there'll be some that will go so far, which now they understand they're making a mistake, is even though this would happen, on October 7th, they're going to say, some people would say, we understand them. Look what the Jews have done to them. Look what Israel's done to them. But then some of their own people, got caught. They weren't singing the same tune. But you got the biggest leftists, some of them out there, saying, you caused this. What do you expect? We know it's not your fault. We know it's not your fault. Okay. But even evil people, And this is the big chiddush. Big novelty. Even evil people, God's going to feel the pain. So the Gemara already says, my creation is drowning. You can't sing praise to me. He says to the angels. God says to the angels. But says the person over here, even if they're evil, God still fears the pain. So again, if I were playing God, put on my funny, George Burns glasses, my funny mustache, what would I say? They got it coming. They rebelled against me. They don't care. They did terrible things. I had to take care of them. Okay. In humanistic terms, 100% justified. 100%, let's say, 100% justified. So if it's 100% justified, they have it coming, where's the pain? Why is there pain? I didn't tell you to act this way. I didn't tell you to do this. I didn't tell you other things. You did it. Okay. You yourself did it. You got no one to blame for yourself. Okay. So some people say, I'm ready to face, the consequences. I know what I did. I don't take back what I did. Okay. They have it coming. They know what they have it coming. So what do they expect? It's not a question what they expect. God himself still doesn't want to do it. God still has compassion. But in this case, compassion's gone. God has to take the bull by the horn. And he's going to wipe them out. But even if he's got to wipe them out, he feels the pain. Or just like the Medrash says, when the Jews go in exile, God goes in exile with them. And the temple's destroyed and God feels the pain. What's the obvious question on that? So why send them in exile? Why cause more pain? Because they had to be sent in exile. Read the book of Jeremiah. It's all about warning the Jewish people. They don't listen. They think the temple's going to be destroyed. They try to kill him. Even. So what happens? Temple's destroyed. But God goes in exile. He feels their pain in exile. So don't send them. Let's all sing play the guitar, sing Kumbaya. Everything's good. But that's not what happened. And throughout history, we see that hasn't happened. So all the more so, if God has to afflict a righteous person, he feels the pain even more. But what would we expect? See, this is the Haftorah we read on a fast day. We say, the prophet says, my ways are not your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts, i.e. God saying that. So we don't understand. In our human puny minds, we don't get it. Or as I would say when I was in college, yeah, a lot of sense it doesn't make. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But at the end of the day, what does God say? God says beyond the shadow of a doubt, your ways are not my ways. Your thoughts are not my thoughts. You're never going to understand. And this is one of them. This is a big one, though. Because nobody's going to say such a thing. Nobody's going to say an evil person you're going to have compassion for. We're going to have compassion for. They did it. They admitted they did it. They have it coming. They know they have it coming. Yeah. Take someone in the mafia. Use the mafia as an example, yeah? They know they're doing certain things. They know they have a death sentence on their head. They have to be careful where they go. And have protection around them, this, that, okay. Last thing they want is, get in the car, get it blown up, and all that, but they know. They know these can be the repercussions for them, for their families, God forbid. Come on, they're not choir boys, they know. They know potentially it's coming. They know potentially it's coming. So you just have to be taken out. Even people like that, what happens? God feels the pain. God absolutely feels the pain. If they did it to themselves and they deserve it, this is very hard. It's very hard to understand. So says Tzaddik of Yerushalayim. Says Rav Hirschler over here. Eza Abba Yeshlam. What a Father in heaven we have. But you tell me, come on, this man's inhumanity to man, and all these terrible things that happen. Okay, God doesn't want it. Want it to be. God created evil. Doesn't mean he is evil, right? Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. According to the right translation, God created evil. Very good. He allows people to tap in, okay, but they'll pay a price. So even if they tap in the wrong way, right, and God has to take care of business, he'll do it. 100%. Maybe he'll stop them from doing what they want to do, or not, but he'll do it. And the novelty is he feels the pain to have to do it. We would never feel that kind of pain. We're not going to worry about their families. We're not going to worry about anything. You're going to take this person out. Yeah. They are going to get punished. You know why they're going to get punished? Because they deserve to be punished. They 100% deserve it and more. So again, the problem for a Jew is, okay, we're more compassionate, but not in this case. Not going to be compassionate over here. If we had to do it, we wouldn't feel the pain. We're not going to think about anything else except what they did. But the problem is nobody did it. Why didn't they do it? Because it's not the nature of a Jew to do it. It's not their nature. Defend yourself, one thing, right? Go out and, make them suffer because of what they did, right? What's the simple answer? It's not going to bring my loved one back. Oh, but someone say, make you feel good. That would make you feel good. Let's put them under a little bit of juice. Let's see what it does to the brain. Let's see. This one, well, his brain's still intact, still fried a little bit, but it's still there. All right, what if we turn it up a little bit? Oh, his head exploded. Guess that was too much juice, right? Next. All right? Say, okay, I could get very gross here. I won't. Would they be justified? You're going to say the Torah said before. Torah said you can't take revenge. Okay. Shouldn't have the Torah saying that. And it wouldn't be in our, in our psyche, so to speak. Yeah, why wouldn't they do it? Because they understand the bigger picture. In my secular Jews, they understand the bigger picture. Two wrongs don't make a right. Not only do two wrongs not make a right, whatever they went through, whatever the families went through, however many people died or were slaughtered or whatever, no matter what you do to this person, no matter what level of command they were in, is not bringing your loved one back. So I'm going to say, well, I got my aggression out, I feel better. Okay? Yeah, but in realistic terms. In realistic terms, yeah? They have it coming. No question about it. They have it coming. But we understand the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that's not going to do anything. The only thing is, maybe somewhere it's going to make a person feel better. Oh, we're going to take a walk now. It's going to be freezing cold. You have no clothes on, barely. I'll be all bundled up, got my heater right next to me. We're going to take a walk for like 3 miles. Yeah? We're going to make you carry like 350 tons of bricks on your head at the same time. And if you get crushed underneath the burden, well, we got dogs over here. We're going to take care of you. Anyone relishing for that? Even if they went through it themselves? They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. Because it doesn't, first of all, the ends don't justify the means. Even if it would be permitted, right, let's say, even if they would derive somewhat satisfaction from it, they understand in their psyche the bigger picture. And what's the bigger picture? The loved ones are not coming back. They're not coming back. This does not answer for what they've done. It might make you feel good a certain way. Yeah. But it doesn't bring them back. It does not bring them back. So even though, again, so that's in our eyes. Now, in God's eyes, he's got to take care of these people. Okay? God absolutely has to take care of them. Very good. And he will take care of them. Either in this world, next world, both. But God at the same time can feel bad. Can absolutely feel bad. Man cannot do that. But says the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim over here. He said, what a mind-boggling thing. What an absolutely mind-boggling thing. You know, a righteous person, God forbid, blood is spilled, he's going to feel the pain even more. 10 times more. But the fact that God should feel it even someone who has it coming, that's mind-boggling. That's what he's saying over here. Mind-boggling. He said, I can't fathom. I can't get an equilibrium over this thing. It's like so overcome me. And what's the reason? Because even someone who's evil, that God's going to take care of them, which they have an obligation to be taken care of. And God still feels bad because he's God. And this is his creation. Right? As Rav Herschel over here said, Eza Abba Yesh Lanu. Now, no one should have to go through it. No one should have to feel the pain. No one should have to give over pain to others. But guess what? One day you got to pay the piper. And they're going to have to pay the piper. So they pay the piper and the piper feels bad. You know people, let's say, assassins or whatever, that's, they feel bad. I heard a story of someone had, I don't know, whatever, they had a job, they had to kill somebody. And the person said, all right, give me an opportunity to pray for a couple of minutes and then do what you need to do. He said, okay. Went to the corner, went to pray, 2 minutes later, then he killed him and shot him. Made him feel something a little bit extra. Yeah. But he did what he did. Right? He did what he did in cold blood. Okay. Some will be more guilty, some will feel less guilty. The more a person does these type of things, they get numb to it. Now, the Nazis, Yamach Shemam V'Zichron, even though they filmed everything, they didn't necessarily watch what was going on. See, by Hamas, that was a very big difference. Very, very big, even though, they're probably part of Amalek also in a certain way. Very cruel, whatever. They filmed everything. Scumbags they are. They filmed everything. They say, well, the Nazis did also. Yeah, they did it for other reasons. When people that do these mass murders and this and that, they're like, they had their eyes closed. They didn't, that's a whole different thing. Very, very different thing. But not only that, they're willing to do it up to a point, unless it's going to cost them their lives, and they're not so interested. Yeah, by the Nazis. When it came to Hamas, in Arabs, that's a totally different thing. They'll relish in it even if they do die. They don't care. Yeah. Germans, at least, they had some semblance of life and what life was. Had a certain level of intelligence, yeah. But they didn't, to watch it and relish in it, that wasn't what they did. That's documented in history. There's nothing to talk about. Yeah. These scumbags, Hamas or whatever, film everything. Filmed everything. They don't care, and they don't care if they give up their lives or not. They understand. They're involved in this, they will die. At some point, someone's going to get them. They're going to find them. Right? This is a good job, killing a lot of them. Now they're reforming or whatever, but okay. So I said I wasn't going to get into politics, whatever. But it's very different. Even on those type of people. God still feels bad. That is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. What would, anyone else probably want to do? Stick a whole bunch of them, in a room, burn the place alive. for the whole life. I mean, I can think of a lot of good things. A lot of good things. Do with these people. So you can see where I'm holding, yeah? At the end of the day, God's gonna feel bad about them also. It's the same thing. Are they any different than the Egyptians? Yeah. They also relished in this. But God gave them the ability to be punished because they admitted. I laugh because it has no explanation. They admitted God was fighting against them, so God allowed them not to be eaten by fish. That is not a human concept in general. Because leftists in the world, okay, yeah, we'll let you be buried. We know you grew up in a terrible situation in the slums, and it's like really your fault and all that. Okay, maybe get some leftists like that. Everyone else, like, fry them. Nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. But that doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense. God, I'm not saying God's going to have mercy over here. He's going to take care of them. 100%. But at the same time, he feels bad. He has to do it to his own creation. Well, what they did to his beloved nation. Okay. We don't understand why it happened. Yeah, no one understands these things. Yeah, you tell me the word punishment, reincarnation. Okay. But the bottom line, we don't understand these things. God should look at it and say, that even an evil person's blood that's spilled, I still feel bad, like the Gemara says. My creation is drowning. You can't sing praise to me. I'm mind-boggling. I'm big into fish. Let the fish eat them. Let the fish eat them for decades. Plenty of food. Hundreds of thousands of people going to be fish food. Beautiful. A mind-boggling thing. But the fact they admitted God's fighting against them, God has mercy and allows them to be buried. But God has mercy also, right? He feels the pain. He feels the pain. All the more so if someone righteous. So that makes the question stronger. So why is he going to take the righteous? Why is he going to make them suffer? Good. Right? It's all about suffering. You can read Derek Hashem about it, why that happens. Right? The way of God, the Ramchal says very clearly. Okay. But in either case, he feels the pain. He feels the pain because, even if they're evil, he feels the pain. All the more so he feels the pain. He feels the pain of someone who's righteous. So says Rav Hirschler over here, says the tzaddik of Yerushalayim, he says, "Eiz Abba Yeshla." What an unbelievable father we have. Again, we'll say, we don't, this is very hard to understand, right, in general. But he's saying, look, all the more so he's going to have compassion. He's going to feel bad, let's say better. He's going to feel bad when he does to a righteous person. No question about it. But even an evil person. Yeah. He says that's the true father because it pains him. He's telling him to go do this. Go be a vigilante, go who knows what. He's telling him to do that. They chose it themselves. Oh, this payback. Don't they know this payback? Yes. Don't they know serious payback? Yes. Do they care? No. But God feels the pain. Mind-boggling. Right? Mind-boggling idea. All right. I'm going to stop here. I want to thank everyone for coming, and we will pick